Why did the US visa interview officer not look at any of my documents? So many times I've asked that question after someone goes to a US visa interview and they've spent hours preparing for the interview, all their documentation, and then they say the officer didn't even ask to see one piece of paper. Well, I'm going to go through with you in this video and tell you why that happens sometimes and how it is super important that you still bring documents with you to your US visa interview. Hi, and thank you for joining me to talk immigration. My name is Andrea Shev, and I'm a U.S. immigration attorney. And I've been doing immigration law for over 20 years now. And I put together this YouTube channel to give you clear, concise, and easy to understand information about all different types of immigration topics. Now, in this video, I'm going to answer that question that a lot of you have out there of why when I went to the interview, my US visa interview, the officer did not even look at any of my documents. I spent all this time preparing all these documents like either I told you to do or another lawyer told you to do or someone told you to do, and they didn't even look at them. Well, in this video, I'm going to talk to you about why that sometimes happens, but more importantly, make sure to watch because I'm going to tell you why it is super important to make sure you still bring the documents with you, even if sometimes they don't look at the documents. Firstly, they usually don't look at the documents because there's no time. They only have such a small amount of time per applicant, especially in consulates that are so huge and have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applicants that the officers need to get through every single day. So one thing that you need to know in this video that's super important, and when you're looking online and you're researching to be prepared for your US visa interview, every single consulate around the world, and I'm talking about every single one, even the ones that are in the same country but they're different cities, have different protocols, different policies, different procedures, different amounts of applicants per day coming through the consulates. So not every single consulate around the world is going to be the same. It is very important that you hear that because a lot of people will tell you, well, when I went to the interview or when I did this interview or this is what happened. You have to be very careful because every single consulate, which there are hundreds around the world, have their own policies and procedures, their own timelines, their own deadlines, and they also have different amounts of people coming through every day for interviews. So they have a different amount of time allotted per interview. So knowing that, let's go back and answer the question. So they don't usually have a lot of time when they don't ask to see your documents. It means that that officer either is in a consulate that has been told that the protocol is not to spend more than a few seconds on each applicant, so they don't have the time to start looking through all your documentation. That's one main reason why they don't look at your documents, because I think the officer truly would love to look at the documents because it would allow them a more subjective decision and have more information that they can actually use in order to make a determination on your particular case. But unfortunately, a lot of the consulates just don't have the time. The officers don't have the time. They're only allotted so many minutes per applicant, and they got to get through the applications all by the end of the day. So that's one main reason why a lot of times the officers will not ask to see your documents. And if you try to give it to them, they'll tell you, no, I don't want to see any documents. Another reason why they don't look at documents a lot of times is because of fraud issues, because a lot of documents can be forged and they don't have the time or the energy or the capability to actually determine if the document they're giving you is not a forged document. Unfortunately, in many places around the world, you can go to across the street sometimes and buy forged documents that you can take with you to your actual interview. So the officers, a lot of times in certain particular consulates, more than others, they don't want to look at the documents because they don't even know if they're actually legitimate documents to actually look at or to believe. So they don't know you from Adam. They don't know you at all. So you're handing them these documents and they sometimes are like, well, how do I know this is even real? Like, how do I know that this is actually a real letter or a real itinerary or a real document that you're giving me or a real, degree certificate, whatever it is, or real wedding invitation? So they don't even want to look at it. So those are two main reasons why officers don't look at documentation sometimes when you go into your visa interview. Now, why should you still bring your documents, even though possibly you've heard that the officers don't even look at the documents anymore? There is a lot of videos out there and other people out there are telling you, don't even waste your time bringing documents because they're not going to look at them. Well, that's not true, because one, there are many documents that you absolutely have to bring, or you're not even going to have a chance to even get the visa. I've done another video that you should watch. That's the 5 things that you must bring with you to your interview. Make sure you watch it. There's a link below and there's a link above this video. Make sure you watch that video, because there's some documents that if you don't bring them, you're not going to get your visa no matter what. They have to look at them. They absolutely have to look at those documents. So if you don't bring them, you're not getting a visa no matter how prepared or no matter how approvable you are. That's one thing. The second thing is that there's a lot of consulates around the world, like I said, and every single one of them has different policies and procedures. And now with the implementation of mail-in applications, I'm sure all of you have heard of those. Mail-in applications, meaning that interviews are being waived. So mail-in applications are being taken. So less people in tons of consulates around the world are not even having as many interviews being set because so many people are doing mail-in. So the officers are given more leeway and time to actually look through documentation or have more in-depth interviews with people for their visas. So you want to make sure you have that documentation with you, because how do you know before you step into the interview if the officer is going to want to see them or not? And if you don't have them, then you're basically setting yourself up for being denied or refused because you don't have any support for the arguments that you're making. The third reason why you need to bring documentation, or I want you to not hear that you do not bring documentation, is that some visas require documentations. For example, if you're an Australian and you're going for an E3 visa interview, you must bring your LCA, you must bring your offer letter, you must bring that documentation. If you don't have it, you're not going to get the visa. So there's certain types of visas, also E2 investor visas. You have to bring the documentation to the interview. If you don't bring it, you're not going to get it. And they're going to say, thank you very much, sir or madam. You can leave because you don't even have the documents that we require you to bring. So don't confuse required documentation that you absolutely have to bring, like interview notices, birth certificates, marriage certificates, those things, with further information about ties to the country, like employment agreements, or rental agreements, stuff that we talk about in other videos and people will talk to you about that prove that you have ties to your home country when you're going in for something like a visitor visa. So don't confuse those two things. Even though I'm telling you, bring the documentation with you, because you never know when the officer that you are in front of is going to want to see, or you're going to have an opportunity to show them the documentation that's going to get you approved. Okay, that is so, so critical to understand, that not every single consulate around the world does not have time to look at your documentation or have the ability to look at your documentation. Now, with all that being said, it is super important, though, that you prepare properly for your visa interview, that you prepare that when they ask you what is the purpose of your travel to the United States, that you have a very succinct, very well-prepared statement of what you're going to go for, how long you're going to go, and why you must return back to your home country. That does not excuse the fact, if they say, oh, I don't want to look at documentation, that you don't have preparation verbally to prove to them why you have sufficient ties to your home country, why you're going to definitely return to your home country, why you do not have immigrant intent to stay in the United States. Okay? So documentation, if they don't ask for it, you definitely have to make sure that your verbal responses are your proof, are your evidence that will support you getting that visa approved. If they ask for your documentation, that's further evidence to support that, then terrific. If they don't, at least you need to be prepared for being your verbal answers, your answers to their questions must be very thorough and succinct and get to the point of why they're going to give you that visa. Okay? So Bottom line is, always bring your documentation in the situations where they don't ask for them. That's okay. You're going to have your verbal answers that are going to be strong, succinct, and to the point, which you can look at my other videos to get more information on how to answer questions and what not to say at visa interviews. But in a lot of consulates around the world, they will look at your documentation. They will want to see the documentation. And don't forget, there is a lot of visas that require documentation. If you don't bring it, you're not getting the visa no matter what. All right? And make sure you watch the video about what 5 things you must always bring to a visa interview no matter what. So that 5 things, if you don't bring them, you're not going to get the visa either. So don't bring documentation, or they don't look at my documentation, to all documentation. It's just about certain support documentation that people are talking about that the officers don't have time always to look at. All right, I hope that answered the question of why officers don't look at my documentation when you tell me to bring it. And it also gives you the clear answer of, like, just because you hear that officers don't always look at your documentation, it doesn't mean you shouldn't bring documentation. And there's certain documentation that you absolutely must bring, or you're never going to get approved for the visa. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to get that free visa interview prep guide that I did with checklists and tips and pointers that goes through a lot of things that you should definitely bring with you to your interview, and also things that you must say and do at your interview to have a better chance of getting approved. Thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, night, wherever you are in the world, and look forward to seeing you again soon.